The May 2019 elections are just 2 months away. How would you describe the IEC state of readiness?
Well, with the intended proclamation today, the IEC will have to step up the intensity of the preparations. But a lot of work has happened over the past 24 months. And now it's just to bring to fruition the work that began 24 months ago.
Can you also describe your program over the next 2 months? We just want to know when you will be printing maybe the national and provincial ballot papers, and how will you make sure that all voting stations are ready?
In terms of voting stations, we've signed contracts with the landlords, and those have been captured. They are in our business applications, a business application for voting station. So we are quite comfortable with the procurement of voting stations. What is important at the moment is that political parties will, from today, start submitting their list of candidates together with the prescribed deposits. When that period closes, we will then be in a position to tell the country who the contestants are, and will then be able to start the ballot printing process. The ballot paper will be printed over a 10-day period, and will print approximately 60 million ballots over a 10-day period. So it's a very complex operation, but we think we have plans in place to deal with it.
There were also issues where the Constitutional Court made an order on the issues of addresses. Can you update us on that?
The addresses, we were at 8 million complete addresses in 2016. As we talk today, we are at 21.5 million. So we've improved from 8 million that we had in 2016, and currently are sitting at 21 million. There's still about 1.3 million people for whom we don't have an address. However, those people, they don't lose their voting rights. They will need to furnish an address before they vote. If they don't have an address, they need to give us a statement really to say exactly describing where they live. And if they do that, then they'll be able to get both the national and the provincial ballot paper.
So is it safe to say that this issue is not yet fully resolved?
The issue will never be fully resolved. I don't anticipate that we'll have 100% addresses for the kind of country that we are. But what is important is that there are measures in place to avoid electoral fraud.
The 2019 election is one of the most important elections, with some comparing it to the 1994 elections. So what is your organization doing in terms of teaching maybe the new political parties that are coming on board about their rights, as well as the voters?
As regards political parties, we've had a session with them last week, where we took them through the whole electoral process and the do's and don'ts. If they submit their list of candidates, then they'll begin to participate in the national PLC, and then we can then journey with them towards 8th May 2019. As for the voters, we have our democracy education facilitators on the ground. They're working hard, they're teaching communities, they're mobilizing communities, so that information is going to voters. We are using our social media platforms to engage with young people, because young persons must be engaged. They don't want to be told. They want to be engaged, and that is happening on our social media platforms. And we hope that together with political parties, we will mobilize the greatest number of people to vote come election day.
And I've noticed that in your Twitter page, you are also visiting universities, encouraging the young people of South Africa to vote. How has the response been?
Very positive. We are happy with that initiative. That at most campuses, TVET colleges, there's been a good turnout, and We are quite happy with that, and we now need to ensure that those people who registered actually take part in the elections.
And what steps is your organization taking to make sure that we will have free and fair elections?
Firstly is to create the climate that is conducive to free and fair elections. And in that regard, we have our Office for Electoral Offences, so that those who violate the Electoral Code of Conduct, those complaints against them will be investigated, and if there's evidence, we will refer the complaint to the Electoral Court for appropriate adjudication and meting out of sanctions. There are also continuous engagements in the Party Liaison Committee, where we use persuasion to get parties to comply to the law generally, but in particular the Electoral Code of Conduct. We will, on the 20th of March, have a national event, a symbolic event where all leaders of political parties will be signing the Electoral Code of Conduct.
Your recent media reports that we've seen linking the IEC to what some people were saying, that the BLF leader or the BLF party must be removed from the ballot paper. And I remember IEC was against that. Can you clarify why you don't take part in such issues?
No, look, we didn't say we are against it, but we said the complaint against the BLF was entertained. We've had a clarification meeting with the BLF, and they essentially committed that they would not continue with that type of language, because it's language that is inimical to a climate which is conducive to free and fair elections. Really, I think it's for members of the public and other political players to know that if there are complaints of that nature and if people feel strongly about them, the only authority with the power to remove a person from the ballot is the Electoral Court. So if anyone feels that we are applying kid gloves on the BLF, then they may still approach the Electoral Court for appropriate relief.
Would you also say that the recent partnership that we saw between your organization and the Department of Home Affairs yielded positive results in terms of people registering?
Yes, Home Affairs, we've been working the journey with them, and we are collaborating with them on many projects. But as well, you know, during registration weekends, they open their offices to ensure that they give people the ID cards and temporary identification certificates. So we are happy with that partnership, and it's a partnership we cherish for the future.
And what steps is the IEC going to take to ensure that South Africans living outside the country are also able to vote?
We've registered them from the 1st to the 4th of February this year. From today, we've opened our application that South Africans living abroad can notify us that they're going to be voting, as well as South Africans who are in the country but who will be overseas on election day. For the next 15 days from today, they should be in a position to notify us, and they'll be given an opportunity to vote on a date to be determined in terms of the timetable.
Is everything in place to make sure that elderly people and maybe disabled people are able to vote?
Certainly, if a person is in a place of confinement, either at home or hospital and so on, they will need to apply for a special vote. The dates about that will be published a little later on. And, you know, if you apply, then voting officials will visit you at the place of confinement on the dates just before the election day.
And lastly, your words to South Africans, because I know there are people who've registered but who are not sure whether they will go and vote or not vote. What can you say to encourage them to vote?
The most important thing that a South African should do in the period in the lead up to the election is really to listen to all political parties and decide for themselves which of those parties finds resonance with them, and then to take part and elect whichever party you feel will advance your interest, will advance the interest of the country. The political future of the country is vested in the 26 million voters who are registered. So you cannot leave out the possibility to vote, because you are then granting other people the right to decide for you. When in fact, when you vote, you are taking part, you are part of the decision about how the country must be governed.
Thank you.